this is a topic that I wanted to present to you that never gets a lot of traction, but there are four major reform attempts in the Illuminati, and we'll talk about them just briefly to give some context. But it's important because this is where the conspiracies go wrong. Like they steered radically off course here. But if you'll concentrate on these four things, not all this information is published yet. I've got it teed up for a book, but it's just not quite ready yet.
Okay.
So I'm actually gonna I'm gonna spitball with you a little bit today to kind of solidify a few things.
Thank you.
Okay. So basically, like we're gonna look at like these nine little points here. We don't need to talk about every last little bit of it, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna see that really of all the reform attempts, two of the four were by the same guy, and so really it's the main attempt at reforming, and it was by Boda, who succeeded Weishaupt. So Weishaupt's the founder. When he goes into exile, basically we have like a decapitation strike at the heart of the order. So like power is, excuse me, is transferred from the south to the north of Germany, and that's largely what we want to keep in mind here. So we had talked about before about the strict observance. Those are the guys that said this: the Templars come from, or the Freemasons come from the Templars. It was founded by this guy, Baron von Hund. He dies in 1776, another one of those years. But the system continues on. Different dukes and stuff kind of take over the order. In this particular essay right here, Boda writes down like his idea for the history of Freemasonry. This is where he's developing that Jesuit plot, where he thinks that the Jesuits are secretly wanting to bring the English Protestants back to Catholicism, and they're going to accomplish it with Freemasonry. But as we also discussed, that's because like his experience is largely to do with French Freemasonry and not English Freemasonry. So he's a little out of his element, even though he could read English. And so this is the essay in 1781 where he lays these ideas out. The next turning point is the following year later at the Conference of Wilhelmsbad. And so what happens here is that dominant right, who was actually founded on a scam, and then the founder died, and so power's been shifting around. They're basically wanting to know, are we led by these unknown superiors, and are they in fact the Knights Templar? Because if they're not, we need to do something about it for once and for all. And so this guy, Jean-Baptiste Villermoz, he calls this Convention of Wilhelmsbad in 1782. Everybody sends representatives, and they kind of hash out the issue. But the idea is that Villermoz is arriving with a prepackaged ritual reform. I've got their rituals from Lyon back in 1774 when they joined the strict observance after the Lou Cohen passed away. That's the main reason why I researched that system. And so if you look in the rituals, he's already creating professed and grand professed, which are two rituals in the CBCS, but he's doing it during the lifetime of the strict observance. So Villermoz is a weaving little spider, and in fact, in his web, he's already got the ritual reforms that he's seeking to get done. So what's really about to happen to German Freemasonry is they're about to have like an Alsatian usurper come in and hijack their system if he can get a hold of it. And so that's largely what's going on at the Congress of Wilhelmsbad. And then what you're seeing on the left there is these printed rituals. There's only one complete set in there in Sweden of the actual rituals from that system. And Boda comments on it, and these are from his collection, thank God. But so we actually know what was going on there. It's basically strict observance light. Like all references to the Templars go away. You're no longer Knights Templars, while you're the beneficent Knights of the Holy City. It's like you just said the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's largely what it is, but it's a power move, is what this conference is. But not everybody goes along with it. So the Illuminati get part of the people, the Golden Rosy Cross get part of the people, and some of the local German lodges just go back to their old rituals pre-strict observance. So it's kind of a wild ride here. Okay. So what ends up happening is, so after that thing goes sideways, Boda, who's this big member of the strict observance, he's brought in by Knigge into the Illuminati. And then at the same time, in the same year, they formed what's called the eclectic rite. So the real stuff the Illuminati did was less like subversive within the state government sphere as it was like the real conspiracies were happening in the Masonic power struggles, right? And so that's what these reforms are really about. So Boda, he joins like in 1783, and what it is these disaffected German lodges that are formerly working this Templar system. They want to do their own thing and be governed by themselves. Then so the following year in 1784, Knigge wrote the first like Masonic ritual system for the Illuminati. Those become the foundational rituals for the eclectic rite. So they
Amazing.
literally have like a monopoly on this system, and it's quite powerful and it's quite influential. Like 95% of Knigge's original work remains in it. And the way that the arrangement is in the eclectic rite is you can pick whatever high degree system you want, and you have to work our standard 3 degrees. But this is the loophole for the Illuminati because they would capture the officers of the lodge. Well, if these are the guys making decisions and they're not elected every year, they serve for many years. Effectively, you've captured the direction of the lodge, and that's how they brought in their high degree system. So what you're
Okay.
seeing here is the hostile corporate takeover model, like a really early example of it in play, like in Freemasonry. So the Illuminati, like if you want to contextualize them, the real conspiracies they're doing are less to do with government and everything to do with Freemasonry. But what from their perspective, they're trying to create an authentic Masonic system. It just happens to be one that's self-created without any lineage or authority.
Yeah.
So there's that
Amazing.
problem. It's a minor issue here, Matt.
This is our masonry. It's the only masonry because we say
The only
it.
real masonry is the one I just wrote.
Amazing. Amazing.
Okay, so if you wanted to like to see that between 1783 and 1789, there are 29 lodges that are in the eclectic rite, and so what you'll notice like these power centers around Berlin, it's totally dark. The Prussian Masons were under the influence of the Grand Lodge of the Three Globes, and so like all the lodges in that territory are under a different power system. So what you see is the Illuminati have parts of northern Germany and basically all of southern Germany, stretching into Austria and a little bit into the Czech Republic, is the idea. So there's effectively there's 29 centers of power here. But if you look at the map of like all the different Illuminati centers, not every one of them is working a Masonic system because they've got like the college level one, like the Secret School of Wisdom, where they're working, the Minerval degree and so forth. So
Mhm.
they have a presence on college campuses as well as Masonic lodges. So there's quite a bit more centers. But the way to look at it is that like these centers, like it could be a university, it could just be a local reading society, right? It could be a lot of things, is their local presence for the Illuminati, but they're effectively the nodes, and the hubs in the network are the lodges themselves. So like if we go back, like we see there's far fewer lodges and way more nodes operating in their system, but it's the lodges that bring them together. So really like the conspiracy of the Illuminati is operated 100% through Freemasonry. That's the right way to look at it.
Would it be fair to say it was the structure they were trying to infiltrate more than the actual esotericism and mysticism?
100%. That's all they're after is power. It's a power struggle, right? Because
Mhm.
the dominant right's just been decapitated. Part of the guys are going to go with the French. Part of the guys are going to go with the Golden Rosy Cross, which are those guys around Berlin, the Prussians, right? And then so this territory is ours, and that's what they're doing is they're carving out a piece of Germany for themselves, effectively.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so in 1784, Boda succeeds Weishaupt because he goes into exile. He's exposed and he has to like hide in a chimney, and he dresses as a carpenter and hides in a wagon to get to where he's going to run off to. So he's a man of honor, kept keeping his head held high.
Brilliant
And so
stories.
in the meantime, like all of their activity in Bavaria and even in Austria, they're totally dead. So it's that north that's still operating, and this is what Boda effectively he just assumes command. No one appoints him, but there's no one left standing. So that's effectively what he's doing, right? So here's our first reform attempt. The first one is Adam Weishaupt himself. So now that he's in exile in 1784, he's going to put out this book called The Improved System of the Illuminati. That's our boy Adam here. Very kind of weird-eyed looking person, but here we are. Um, he puts out the improved system of the Illuminati in the Schwedenkiste of those 21,000 pages. There's 4 different accounts that are written in 1784 of a degree reform for his system. And so just to kind of boil down, so we see big picture, Weishaupt is a terrible ritualist, and he doesn't like the rituals really that Knigge has written. But what he really doesn't like is that he founds the system, and Knigge sees himself as an equal co-creator. He doesn't like sharing, basically. He wants it to be his system. And
Mhm.
so his proposition is, hey, we'll just go back and we'll make it academic. We'll lose all degree names. We'll lose the name of the order. You self-initiate yourself by reading this little pamphlet. And
Self-initiate, did you say?
Self-initiating, that's right. You
Amazing.
self-initiate yourself. There is no correspondence to maintain, so nobody can be given up. It's an academic literary conspiracy, and this is what Weishaupt puts in there. I've translated this whole book. It is absolute dynamite. Like the guy's an absolute genius, but not of a good sort. He's like basically it's like communism on steroids. So like on the one hand, when Robeson calls Weishaupt the founder of communism, well, it's not literally true, but he has probably the same affinity for freedom, if that has any, a good way to put it. I don't know.
Goodness.
Okay. So we had that reform attempt in 1784 and it gets printed in 1788. Slightly before this is Reform Attempt 2 by Boda. So this is where he wants to go to France and he wants to become, or he wants to bring in the French Freemasons into the Illuminati, the new system that he's effectively de facto running, right?
Mhm.
And so, just a little background on the guy. He becomes a German Freemason in the 1750s. He's born effectively to a day laborer. He's in the military for quite a while. He's educated in French. He knows how to read English as well. So he's a highly educated person. He's a musician. He plays the violin. He had three different wives, and I think by the 1770s, they're all dead. And so he's a bachelor now, and the last wife had money. So he's a man of newly acquired wealth and no anchor. So
Goodness.
he's happy to go out and do whatever he wants to. And so that's roughly who Boda is. So in 1787, he wants to go to this convention, and he sends this paper, which is the hardest dang thing in the world to find. There's only three copies left, and like I found them all within a month of each other, but getting to them was absolutely vicious. But here we are. So he wants to convert the leadership of effectively who's running the Grand Orient of France, is what he's looking to do. And he doesn't like Villermose's reform. The leadership of the Grand Orient really isn't an affinity with what Villermose is doing. They respect him, but that's his territory. Their territory is Paris proper, right? And so that's what he's after, is to gain influence in Paris proper. And in fact, he gets Rotier de Montelot, like he gets him to become a member of his newly formed Illuminati system. So they sign all these papers, but there's no rituals or any system for them to work because it doesn't exist yet in French. And so what ends up happening on the way there, we discussed that some original writings of the Illuminati order comes out in 1787, and that's where Boda says, "Hey, we can't use this name Illuminati anymore. It's not going to work out." And so that's where he changes their name to from the Illuminati to the Philadelphians or Philadelphes or Philadelphian,
It
whatever
hasn't got the
language.
same ring. It really hasn't got the same ring to it.
Yeah, same guys. It's the same thing. And then instead of using like the owl, they want the jewel to be like a thing of plowshares. And I think that one's
Oh,
actually a
right.
little bit cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
that's got a lot more agrarian thing that would make
that's,
Josephson very
would
happy.
that be more to do with Tubal Cain as well? The plowshare, the symbolism.
Yeah, that's right.
Goodness me.
Isn't that funny?
Rather than the Athenian owl.
Okay, so he gets these guys to join the Illuminati, but he's got no rituals for them. In 1788, he gets one of his friends, Luz, to translate his German system. So he's already had this thing in draft since at least I think 1786, but I can't prove it. Somewhere in that range. So he wants to reform pretty much from the time he's assumed command because it's got fatal flaws. And so he puts this thing together loose, translates it. He finishes it in July, and then literally the order closes up shop the following month. So that's it for them.
Mhm.
Um, and here's where things get dicey for the Illuminati and the Eclectic Rite. After that 1787 Some Original Writings book goes out, uh, now they're pointing fingers at the Lodge Zereinigkeit or the Unity Lodge in Frankfurt. They're an English provincial Grand Lodge from 1742. They lose like affiliation, I think, for a little while, but I think you guys keep them on the books anyways because hey, why not? Um,
Something that
and
old, why
then
not?
by 1789, they're being shamed for it, so they make a formal like break with the Illuminati in 1789, and they also they do away with Boda's Lodge in particular, right? So reform attempt number three, Carl Friedrich Barth, the German Union. Sometime before 1789, this guy, Dr. Carl Friedrich Barth, he was a theologian. He starts off like as a Christian scholar, but he's anything but a Christian. Like he's a total deist. Yeah, he also likes drinking a lot and courting the company of ladies of ill repute. He's a upstanding gentleman, to be sure. Fine example of the Illuminati to have
Yep.
as a member. And so, anyways, after the Weishaupt goes into exile within Bavaria, he wants to keep operating it. So he basically has like Illuminati by correspondence. And as long as you send in your money to this guy, which is him, he'll send you a pamphlet of information. So it's
Unbelievable.
like the Rosicrucian correspondence courses they have today. It's very much like
Yeah.
this is what he's proposing. And the funny thing is that it's Boda himself who shuts him down because hey, competition's a sin, in
Goodness.
the
So
words of Rockefeller, right?
it's like the correspondence and courses mixed with membership of the Hellfire Club.
That's right. That's
Hmm.
exactly right.
That sounds quite interesting. I'm up for that.
I'm down for that.
Yeah.
And so Boda, like again, anonymously publishes to put Bart out of business, which is fine because he's later arrested. Like I said, he was a totally upstanding citizen, and it definitely wasn't coming that he was going to be arrested. Where he died in jail just a couple years later in 1792, and that was reform attempt number three. So it was really a local guy trying to put coin in his pocket because
Hmm.
hey, drinks are expensive and so are bad ladies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was what he was doing. Number three was not a real serious one. Number one was more of face saving, like Weishaupt was saving face. Oh, look, here's the system. Look, it's free to the world now because I don't control it.
Open source.
Basically, he was a spoiled, petulant child kicking his blocks over. That was attempt number one. Number two was serious about continuing, but we're to reform attempt number four with Boda, back to the Philadelphians again. And the reason for it is that they break association in 1789 and they like by name exclude his lodge from all systems. So he's now marooned. He's still a Freemason, but he's not a member of any active or legal lodge at this point. And that's largely what happens here. That little symbol, that's his symbol for his Union of German Masons that he wanted to have. That was all for nothing. But the interesting part is the reforms, like that for the Philadelphians or Philadelphians, all the way back from like he maybe writes it in 1786. It's consistent all the way through in both French and German in the printed forms, manuscript forms, and also the French manuscript forms. And so it's a serious reform attempt, and it actually had pretty darn good odds of working. And what his reform was just like the eclectic rite. We're not going to tell you what high degree system to work, but in this system, we're not going to work any high degrees. Those didn't work out. Those Illuminati were terrible. But we're going to have low degrees.
Right. Right. Which
You're
anybody
going to
could
take you're going
join.
to take the secret school of wisdom. Those 3 degrees, you're going to take those at the same time you're taking the 3 craft degrees, and so he's going to put them together. And so that's what it is. Is like his Masonic reform is a continuation of the Illuminati, but not the Illuminati. They're the Philadelphians. Let's get it straight. We did away with that evil owl. We put in a useful set of plowshares, but literally, like textually, the rituals are 85% the same, and that's what he did.
Amazing. Amazing.
And that concludes our presentation.
So, if not successful the first time, try 4 times.
That's right. Give it 4 attempts. I'm sure one of them's bound to be working.
Fantastic. Well, Joe, I can't thank you enough. That was extremely informative, and it's nice to have somebody so well researched you can ask off the cuff questions to, and have a definitive answer with quotations and also references from
And
original
personality
sources.
too.
And personality, yes, yeah, and actual humor. Goodness me. Joe, I mean, would love to have you on in a future podcast just so you can go over what you're working on and just to
Sure.
elucidate on the more trickier to understand concepts of the Illuminati. And we'd really like to work with you possibly in the future with regards to high level degrees, the high level
Yeah.
degrees floating around. But for today, I thank you. And if you
Well,
have any works you'd like to plug, please use this platform to promulgate. So
yeah,
your major work is the School of Wisdom, and that's was that co-written with Reinhard Markner and Javer Singh Anand?
that's right. That was back in 2015. That was the book that people apparently started liking me for. And
Okay.
then also, after that was published, I quickly faded into nothing. So,
Fantastic. And where can you buy such a book, Joe? Where can you get
you
one?
can get all my stuff on Amazon.
Yeah.
The new book, Etienne Morin, From the French Rite to the Scottish Rite, that's the new one. The book on Johann Samuel Mund, which is on the world's first like Rosicrucian Masonic system, even older than the Golden Rosy Cross. It is totally obscure. That you probably like that one, to be honest. The
Yes.
books on Lulu Cohen, and just other stuff that I've done. But there's like 12 books, I think. So just, you go find them on Amazon if you like them,
Yep.
and if you don't
Yep.
like them, don't buy them.
I will link below in the text, so please have a look at Joe. Support our Illuminati intellectual hero. Send some money his way, and thank you for your time, Joe. It's been amusing and informative.
Well, thank you so much, man. I look forward to future work.
Thank you very much. So on that note, I think we'll leave that one there. If you have any
Cool.
questions, please email us on the link below. We're now part on the square, and we will meet soon. Thank you and goodbye.